welcome to Wellness for Wealth TV, Life Strategies with Nat. How are you guys doing? I am so excited. We have a guest expert here. Wellness for Wealth TV is all about improving your wellness, improving your wealth, and improving your life fulfillment. So if anyone's here, we are talking today with the lovely Karen Blair. She is going to be talking to us about that thing that nobody wants to talk about, but is really important for your financial wellness and for your mindset. So we talked about financial wellness last month, and this month we're all about mindset. So I'm really excited to cover this topic. So Karen, for those of us who don't know you, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourselves? And guys, as you're hopping on, let us know that you're here. Give us a hello, give us some hearts or some emojis. And if you have questions, just pop them in the comments and we'll try to get through. And if you're listening on replay, catch the replay, or let us know you're watching on replay with the hashtag replay so we can come in and say hello and answer any questions. Okay, Karen, the floor is yours. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thanks, Natalia. Nice to meet you all, everyone. I can't see who's on, but it's nice to meet you all and be able to do this. This is my first time ever live, so it's slightly unusual for me, but I'm now 52, and suddenly with this situation we're in with COVID, I'm now finding that I'm having to adapt to different ways of communicating with people. So this is good. This is good for me, advancing in technology and getting used to using new things. So it's going well so far, but this is my first live on Facebook or anything. So thanks everyone for coming and listening to me. So as Natalia said, my name's Karen Blair, and I work for the De Vere Group, as a financial advisor. Now, some of you may have heard of De Vere before, but you may not have. But De Vere are the world's largest independent financial consultancy. We actually have offices in over 100 countries, and we have over 80,000 clients. I'm sure some of you will be in different parts of the world, so you may have come across a De Vere consultant before. You never know, you might have. But yeah, so we help people all over the world from all walks of life with anything to do with financial stuff, all aspects of financial planning, from simple things like life insurance to more complex things like estate planning, inheritance tax planning, pensions, basically looking after your wealth, growing your investments, everything. But today I'm going to talk to you about the importance of having a will. And because of the current climate with COVID-19, it seems to be a very topical and important thing to talk about at the moment. So COVID-19 took the world by storm a few months ago, and in Spain alone, it's caused over 24,000 deaths. And in the worldwide, it's around 247,000 deaths. Now that's a horrendous figure, and obviously it's still ongoing. The situation's still ongoing in a lot of countries. A lot of them are coming out of it. We're at the moment in Spain, we are getting a little bit of freedom, not a lot, but we're allowed to go out for a walk or something, but we're still pretty much in lockdown. So it's still affecting a lot of countries. And, this was totally unexpected, and it just highlights how unpredictable life can be and how quickly things can change without any warning. And I'm sure a lot of people will have been affected by this in some way, either personally or they'll know someone that's been affected by it. And unfortunately, some of those people may not have survived. And that is unfortunately the reality of viruses like this. It's a new virus, and it takes them so much time to get a vaccine or get it under control. I mean, this is something that probably none of us in our lifetime have ever experienced before. So because of this and the situation we find ourselves in the world, it seemed this would be a good time to talk about the importance of a will. So,
and guys, sorry, Karen, just to interrupt you for a sec. Let us know where you are in the world and how you're doing, because it's just great to see. It's just great to have these kinds of forums where it brings everyone together, and because we're all in this together, and it's just nice to feel a bit closer to you when we know where you are, because both Karen and I are in Spain. Actually, that's how we met. But yeah, so just let us know in the comments, where you are in the world, where you're tuning in from, and if you have any questions. Okay, Karen, go for it. Sorry,
great, thanks. So, who should have a will? That is quite an ambiguous question, but basically anyone who has children, anyone who has property, anyone who has savings in the bank, should have a will. Basically, everyone should have a will. People tend to think that wills are for older people and people who are getting to the stage where they might die. Unfortunately, life has taught us that unexpected events happen and people die without warning from all different things, not just COVID. There's, people have accidents, people die of cancer all the time, children die, so not that they need a will, but obviously the adults do. So basically, you're never, ever too young to have a will. Your will can be added to it, can be amended as things are no longer relevant, but having a will protects your loved ones in the event of anything happening to you. Now, when someone dies, all their loved ones are grieving so badly that the last thing they want to have to deal with is extra legalities when there isn't any provisions in place to protect them. And if you don't have a will, the country you live in has laws, intestate succession laws, where they decide who is beneficiary to your estate and in what proportion it gets given to them. Now, most people, I think, would want to decide themselves what happens to their estate, whether it be their property, whether it be personal belongings, like you may have, I think most of us are probably women on here, probably all women. You might have pieces of jewelry that you really want to go to a daughter or a niece if you don't have daughters, or even a best friend's daughter. You might have, particular things that are particularly sentimental to you that were maybe passed down through your families. And if you don't have a will stating your wishes, then the state basically decides where your belongings are distributed. It can also cause a lot of upset and unnecessary upset, arguments, animosity between families, because not everyone agrees what should happen if you don't have it set out in a will and it's in writing and it's been done legally and it's there for everybody to see that was your wishes. Now, wills don't need to be complicated. They really don't need to be complicated. They're slightly more complicated if you have children and your children are young and you need to put in place things like you need to think about guardians for your children should anything happen to you and your husband. Who is the best person to look after your children and bring them up? Now, that's a big thing to think about. So if you have children, that's really important, because the fact that if anything happens to you, your children are devastated anyway. And if you haven't actually made provision for what's going to happen to them, then courts decide. It means basically any member of your family could put in a petition to the court to say that they want to have the children and look after the children. And depending on the age of the children, they may not have a say in it. So that is a massive important thing that mothers need to think about. Mothers of younger children, not obviously if they're teenagers and they're about grown up anyway, but certainly mothers with young children. And it does take away all the discussion, falling out, arguments between families and friends. And everyone knows that that is what you wanted to happen. It's not only for your children. Sorry?
Right. It's peace of mind as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And it's making sure that your loved ones are properly protected. Now, I myself have lived through this personally. I was unexpectedly widowed at 30. It was a sudden death is what they call it. My husband had a car accident, and I was left with 2 young children. And at the time, when my dad phoned the solicitor, now you can imagine when you lose someone, it doesn't matter if it's your husband, your mum, your dad, you're in you're devastated. There's no simple way to put it. You're devastated. You can't think straight. You're in a mess, and you have so many things to sort out, even the funeral, even what they might have wanted in funeral arrangements. I mean, that in itself is a massive stress, and for you to think about when you're grieving, because you've suddenly got this loss and you've got this immense grief, and to then have to find out that actually maybe the house you live in isn't going to be just go to you, or everything your husband or partner owned doesn't necessarily go to you because there's no will. That brings in a whole different level of stress that doesn't need to be there. Thankfully for me, my husband and I made wills when we were 26. And the first thing our family solicitor said to my dad when he phoned and said, Gary's been killed, we had just moved back to Scotland, and the solicitor had 6 months before dealt with the purchase of our house. And the first thing he said was, oh no, they won't have wills. This is going to be a nightmare to sort out. And my dad said, actually, they do. And he was like, and he was surprised because we were so young, but also relieved. And he did explain to me that had we not had wills, his family could have put in a claim against the estate. They might not have been awarded it, but it would have been an extra stress that I didn't have to deal with. Now, as it was, my husband's mother thought that she should have Gary's estate because she was his mother and she had brought him up. And I had only been with him 5.5 years. So in her mind, she thought that I had no right to have his estate, even though I had our two children to bring up. And she still believes this to this day. So that shows you how different people think. Even at a time when they're grief-stricken, it brings out the worst in people and it brings out the best in people. And thankfully, as I say, for me, the easy thing for my executors to do was to say to my mother-in-law, the terms of the will are clear, everything is left to Karen. And that's as it should be. So she had no recourse. But had we not had a will, I could be in a very, very different position than I was. And I may not have had a home to bring up my children because she could have had a claim on it. I might have had to sell my home. Now, that, I know that may sound unbelievable to you, but it actually is what happens quite a lot, especially when there is no written will. And to make a will, you appoint executors who are going to carry out your wishes, and they have to carry out whatever you put in your will. It doesn't matter how bizarre it is, how strange you think your wishes are. As long as you have written that and you have signed it and witnesses have witnessed it, then that is the law. It doesn't matter. You can say you want everybody to turn up to your funeral wearing Hawaiian gear and drinking pina coladas if you want. You know, it's entirely up to you what you want to happen, what you want to happen at the funeral. I mean, it's also good to put that in your will as well. That was one thing Gary and I didn't think about. So I had to try and think what he would want. And it wasn't something we had ever discussed because I was 30 and he was 32, so we'd never discussed it. I still think I made the right decision, but you know, I made the decision that I thought was right for us all, taking into account that his parents lived in Cornwall and we now lived in Scotland. So I opted to have Gary cremated, which meant that they could have half his ashes and I could have half his ashes. Now, I don't know if that's what Gary would have wanted, but I had to make the decision and it wasn't an easy one. Mm-hmm. So again, if you can put that in a will, that what your wishes would be, then even better. It takes all the guesswork away from people and it shows that you're clearly, you know what you wanted. But the most important things that you need to think about is the protection of your family. And it deals with everything. It deals with all your finances. It deals with your property, who's entitled to that, what happens if your husband dies, then does it go equally between your children? You know, you have to think of all the steps and have them in there, but it doesn't need to be complicated. There are clauses in there and they're very easy to do, and anywhere you have a will made will help you with that. You just tell them the basics of what you want, and then they put together the will in the legal form that it has to be. As I say, that you appoint executors as well, and it's dealt with solicitors. If you die with assets, there is a legal process and it has to go through it whether you like it or not. So you are better to be prepared and have everything in order, because we just don't know. Nobody knows when they're going to die, unless of course they have an illness and they know that it's not curable. But other than that, it can be unexpected, and it's much better to be prepared and ensure that your loved ones are protected. And it is all about your family. That's what you live for. When you have kids, you live to give them everything and bring them up and them have a happy life. And so to take away any unnecessary stress by doing a simple document that can save so much time, and not only time but money, because if you don't have a will, the solicitor's fees are astronomical because there's so much paperwork that has to be sorted, and it's not just the cost, it's the time that it drags on for your loved ones. If there is no will, if you have a will, it generally takes around about 6 months to complete everything. By the time everything comes into the solicitors, if you've got life policies, they have to be written to, all the banks have to be written to, everything. It takes around 6 months with a will. Without a will, it can take well over a year, sometimes 2 years, sometimes 3 years, depending on how complex your financial situation is. The other thing in this day and age is that divorce is more commonplace than it ever was. And quite often there are blended families. So you may have children from a first marriage and you may have children from a second marriage. And you may want to make sure that all those children are treated equally. In which case, the only way to make sure that happens is to do a will and have it all in black and white, exactly what is to happen and how your estate is to be split. It's not a nice subject to think about, but unfortunately, with the situation we're in just now, it's something that's should be very much in the forefront of most people's minds. As I say, because most people will have heard of someone that has been affected by this. And this is something that the world has never experienced in our lifetime. And it's totally out of our hands.
Yeah. Well, I think COVID has really taught us a lot of different things about, just even the simple things. And I remember, when I was back in wealth management, I managed an estates team. And I'm, remembering cases as you're explaining, when people don't have a will and it drags on, and it really can bring out the best and the worst in people, unfortunately, especially when you have blended families. And I think it is that thing that no one wants to talk about, but at the same time, it's like, life is all about celebrating, even, when you're born and when you pass, you celebrate the life that you've had. And I think when you think about what it is that you want, this is something that we need to start, really thinking about, and protect. Like, I have a will. Before I went on my, self-discovery, before I went traveling around the world, I made sure I had a will, and I had property, and I had savings, and I'm single. I don't have kids, but I still have a will. Just like you're saying, like it's if you have property, if you have savings, if you have money in the bank, like, it does apply to so many people. And I'm so thankful that you shared that story with us, because I think it really hits home and reminds us that, life is unpredictable. And as much as you can prepare and protect people from, even more grief, and be able to just, celebrate the times that they shared with you, and really just, move on from that, as difficult as it may be. It's just one little gift that you can leave your loved ones, right?
Yeah, definitely. The taking away the extra stress that doesn't need to be is definitely something that you can't put a price on it. You can't. As I say, people are grieving, and that grief is bad enough without then having to deal with legal battles, and also not being able to move on, because until everything is finalized, people can't actually go through all the stages of grief, because they're still dealing with certain parts of it. And you don't want that for your loved ones. You really don't. You want them to be able to, as you say, Natalia, it's all about remembering the good things about them, the good things about the life they had. They, not thinking, constantly being plagued down by hassle and stress, having to sort out things. It then gives you time to be able to focus on celebrating the fact that they were part of your life. And that's what it should be. I mean, in Scotland, we have weeks. I don't know if you have them all over the world, but we have them, and we have weeks, and it is very much a celebration of the person's life. Once the ceremony's over, that whichever one you do, whether it be a burial or a cremation, it's then all about celebrating their life and trying to be happy. I know it's difficult, but if everything is in order, then people can actually then feel slightly relieved that they can celebrate the fact that you were part of their life, and they know that there's no unnecessary hidden stuff that they're going to have to deal with. So it does make a huge, huge difference. And as I say, it doesn't take long, and it doesn't need to be complicated. It can be as complicated as you want, or as easy as you want. I've just done a very, very simple will. I have 2 children. I'm not married again, but even if I was, I don't think it would change much, but my will just says that everything, my whole estate is split equally between my two children. Yeah. It can be that simple. And I've just appointed executors to make sure that that happens. And you do have to appoint executors, and normally you would have maybe one legal person. So like one of them would be a solicitor, and the other would maybe be one of your best friends that you 100% trust and know would be able to carry out your wishes and would be able to do it without it feeling like a burden to them.
Yeah.
So, and I think we all have a friend like that somewhere, where it would actually give them a bit of a purpose as well, you know, feeling that they're doing one last thing for you, and that they would feel honoured to be able to do that. You can have two friends. It doesn't need to be, you don't need to have a solicitor or anyone legal, but a solicitor will be appointed. So it's entirely up to the individual. But there's lots of help out there. You can have it, you can do them online yourself, or you can go to a legal representative, or yeah, you can do it either way. Some people feel better speaking to someone or going through a process that's set out, and they fill in what they want, say on a going through, well, at the moment it's very difficult to see someone face to face, so it would more likely be that you would be doing it online. But people who do this and deal with this all the time, and this is what their expertise is, they will ask you simple questions. The thing will ask you simple questions, and they will collate all that you have put in the different sections, and they will put it together in a will for you in the proper format. And then you read through it and you check it, and if you need anything amended, then you just do quick amendments there and then once you approve it, it's completed properly, and then it's sent to you for signature, normally digitally. But yeah, it can be done very, very easily and quickly nowadays, especially with modern technology. It doesn't need to be complicated or long drawn out. And it might take you half an hour. It might take you an hour to sit and think.
Yeah, I remember when I was doing, yeah. Sorry, my internet went a little bit. So
that's okay.
No, I remember, it takes me back when I was doing my will. It was, I was actually really surprised how quick it was. I mean, I didn't have the kids to think about, and I didn't, have, I mean, there was it was a pretty simple process just because of what I was dealing with. But regardless, it is really simple. And I think, being in wealth management and understanding that, having a financial advisor is part of your wellness team, just like your doctor. This is just me personally speaking, but just as your doctor, your nurse, your massage therapist, your accountant, they're all trying to protect your best interests, your financial wellness, your, mindset, your peace of mind. So I guess for anyone listening who is saying, you know what, it's time, I can't put this off any longer. What's kind of the next best thing? If someone wanted to get in touch with you and say, Karen, can you help me with a will, or can you direct me in the right direction? What's kind of next for everyone right now?
Yeah, well, Devere as a company, because we're a massive company, obviously we adapt very easily to circumstances. So our company has actually at the moment brought out a promotion on wills, because they realise how important it is to everybody across the world. And they actually have a will department, and they are offering wills to people around the world for £15. That's all it is. It's a promotional thing.
15?
Yeah, 15.
Amazing.
£15. And as I say, they're experts at writing the wills. If you have any questions, you can message them and say, I'm not sure about this, blah, 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 and they will guide you. It's a very simple process and inexpensive as well. You can have the will physically yourself to keep, or if you want them to store it, the company to store it, not De Vere itself, but the will company, it's £25 for them to store it. So again, that's also very, very reasonable. So there's no excuse really for people not to do a will, you know, especially at that price, everyone can afford it. So you don't need to go and spend hundreds of pounds on a solicitor doing a will. You can do it very quickly and very simply. So if anyone does want to have the link, then please put some drop a comment in the comments. I can't see it, but Natalia can, and she can let me know, and I will send you the link for you to complete that yourself. And if you have any questions with it along the way, or anything, or any difficulty, you can come back to me and I'll help you as well. So you've got me as well as the will expert. So
oh, that's awesome. Thanks so much, Karen. Thanks so much for coming on and talking about this. I don't want to say difficult, but it is a challenging topic. It's one of those things that nobody really wants to talk about, but it is really important to talk about. And I really thank you for sharing your personal story and really just, you know, making it so relatable and easy to understand why it is that you should have a will, whether you have kids or you don't have kids, you know, if you have property, if you have money in the bank. It's just a gift. It really is a gift. And it's a gift to yourself from a personal peace of mind. Like when I left for my trip, I had a power of attorney drawn, I had my will drawn, and it was like I didn't have to worry about that. And maybe you wouldn't worry about it, but it would still kind of maybe be at the back of your mind. And like, God forbid something happened, you know, I wouldn't want to leave anyone with, you know, oh, what does she want? And you get to also think about, what is it that I want? And that's really powerful, just even for your own peace of mind, your own self, and just checking in with, you know, what do you have financially as well, as part of financial wellness, part of that relationship with money, that it's, you know, you want to treat it with respect and you want to treat it with love, because it's giving you everything. It's supposed to give you joy. That's what money is supposed to do. It's not supposed to be, you know, worrying. It's not supposed to be sad. It's not supposed to be anything like that. But it's all about how we think about it and perceive it. So Karen, thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you for having me on, and thank you everyone for listening to me. And if you do want any help, please don't hesitate to contact Natalia, and she'll give me your details. She'll pass them on.
Yeah, awesome. All right, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next week. Bye. Thanks,
Bye.
Karen.
Bye.